All right, so in this section, factoring trinomials with a not equal to 1. So in other words, the number in front of the squared term, so the x squared term or maybe the m squared term, is going to be like a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, something like that. It could be negative as well. But it's not going to be just a 1. Because remember, when it's just a 1, we don't have to divide our answers that we picked at the end. We do have to do this with this section. So here's one of them that we'll start off with. So, and this should be a relatively quick lesson. This is going to be factor 3p squared minus 4p minus 15. Okay? And we are just going to basically do the x method, and then we are going to have to divide if we need to. So let me go ahead and get that going. But notice in our case here, a is 3, right? Not 1. B is negative 4, and C is negative 15. All right, again, you don't have to write that out. I just personally, I'm a visual learner. I need to see stuff in order for it to make more sense to me. So this helps me. Okay, if it doesn't help you, you don't have to do it. So here we go. So on the top, we're going to multiply A times C. So 3 times negative 15 is negative 45. And then on the bottom, I'm going to put a negative 4, the B value, right? Now I got to think of two numbers that multiply to 45, or I guess you could say negative 45, that add up to a negative 4. I know one is negative. I know one is positive. All right, negative 9, positive 5, okay? Because negative 9 times 5 is negative 45, and negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4. So we do have that set up. Now, I don't know if that sounds familiar, but feel free. I'll get my A term. I'm going to divide everything by 3, okay? Because since this is not equal to 1, so we're going to divide that by 3. All right, so we are going to divide it by 3, like I said. So our A term is not 1. So this becomes negative 3. And this does not divide, so this stays as a fraction, okay? So now that I have those two things done, I'm going to go ahead and write out my answer. Okay, so it's going to be p minus 3, p plus 5/3. And then no fractions allowed, right? So get that 3 where the 5/3 is and move into the front of that p. So it's going to look like this, p minus 3 and 3p plus 5. And this is going to be your solution. So it's the same as what we did on Monday. There's just a little bit of a tiny hitch, right? When A is not equal to 1, you are going to have to divide. But once you divide, you still do all the work the same. You're just going to have to rewrite your answer at the very end sometimes. Not always. But if there's a fraction, you are going to have to rewrite. So that's one of them from your homework problem. Let me look to see if I can find another one. Yeah, this one. I like this one here. So let me show you one more. This is going to be example number 2. So last example. Negative 4x squared minus 22x minus 30. Now I picked this on purpose. That means that there has to be a reason, right? Not just like it's the same like the other one. There's something different about this one. It looks the same, kind of. And yeah, the number in the front is negative, but that's not really what caught my attention. So, sorry? The 22 and the 30, what about them? Or that the fact that they're bigger numbers, you mean? Maybe? They have a GCF, right? The number one rule whenever you factor, anytime you're going to factor anything, first thing, and if you look at that paper I gave you guys, the very top little box on the top left corner says, what do they have in common, right? Because if you can take out something they have in common, it makes the problem easier to do. What do negative 4, negative 22, and negative 30 have in common? A negative 2. Let's take out the negative as well. Anytime you can take out a negative, take it out. So they all have a negative 2 in common. So this would be 2x squared plus 11x plus 15. Because notice, if I would have not done this, my a times c would be negative 4 times negative 30, which would be 120. And then your job is to figure out all the factors of 120 that add up to possibly negative 22. That's a big number, right? So I don't want to deal with the factors of 120. I'd rather deal with, notice what I'm left at, a 2 and a 15 inside of that parenthesis, right? So I just got to think about the factors of 30. Well, that's easy. 1, 30, 2, 15, 5, 6, 3, 10. That's it, right? The factors of 120, I don't even know them all, okay? So it's a lot easier once you take out a GCF. So that's the reason why I picked this problem. When I saw it, I'm like, okay, we're going to do that to remind them, like, hey, always ask yourself, do they have something in common? So let's go ahead and work with just this right here. Okay, don't forget about that negative 2, right? That thing goes in our answers. I'm going to highlight it there. That way I don't forget about it. So here we go. My A term is a 2. My B term is an 11. And my C term is a 15. All right? So A times C is 30. That's going to go up here. And B is 11. And I got to think of two numbers that multiply to 30 that add up to 11. All right, 6 and 5. I heard 6 and 5. Both positive, right? They both are going to be positive. But I do have to divide by my A term, right? By 2. So I divide this by 2 and this by 2. 6 over 2 is 3, so plus 3. And 5 over 2 does not divide, so I'm going to leave it like that. And now I'm just going to write my answer, which would be x plus 3, x plus 5 halves. By the way, if you don't like to write that step and you just want to write 2x plus 5 immediately, go ahead. That's fine. And then don't forget about this minus 2, right? So the minus 2 goes there. Let me just do a real quick fix on the last factor. This will be a 2x plus 5, and I'm done. So there you go. This is what your homework is.